Hey, this is Matt once again. We're about to another video, and this is a paid request for Sean. Thank you so much for that. For those interested requesting any type of videos, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal. I do have a Cash App as well. Links are down below, and I'll get to it as soon as I possibly can. And for those who sent them, thank you. I really do appreciate it. Now, this is for the 1976 film Network, which, when it came out, was very successful. Got a lot of Oscar nominations, including Peter Finch, who won it posthumously because he had sadly passed away. He plays definitely the central figure, Howard Beale, who is a TV news anchorman who just found out he's been fired. He's got his 2 weeks notice, and it's the start of his meltdown, his breakdown, where he announces that he's going to end his life on TV. And of course, that gets people in the kerfluffle, but it gets a little bit of a notice in the ratings. And then his immediate boss, but also his buddy, who's part of the news division, William Holden, allows him to have one more goodbye, apologize, but then he goes on another tirade, another rant. And each time he does these, the programs become a bit more successful. The ratings get a bit higher. So the head boss, Robert Duvall, as well as his head of programming, Faye Dunaway, they see a way to capitalize on this, and it's definitely a movie that when you watch it now, sadly is still relevant, about the media, how manipulative they are, how they'll do anything for ratings, how it's not really legitimate, it's a circus. And that's the same way today. I mean, you look at any other points of media, it becomes a circus, and how can you trust them? And they will push whatever they feel is right, whatever they feel is the agenda they want to promote, they want to utilize to their own benefit, no matter who could be hurt in the process. And hell, there's a comment later on where it's not much about nations and ideologies, it's corporations, and the world is a business. That's said by Ned Beatty, who runs the corporation that kind of owns this whole TV network. And he's telling that to the guy Howard Beale because he's ranting on stuff he's not supposed to. And I mean, sadly, that's still true to this day. It is still run by corporations. Whether you call it Disney, I mean, think about it. Nowadays is Disney, Amazon, Apple, and maybe one or so others. And whether it be a war, whether it be something else, is what kind of business can it be? What kind of money can we get out of it? What kind of business can be reached to fix something or end something? I mean, that's still prevalent today. And about how Peter Finch, this guy, his Howard Beale character, how he is a tragic figure. He's a tragic figure because, as obviously he's in the middle of a meltdown, instead of people helping him, instead of him getting where he needs to go, it's people taking it and using it to their own benefit. I mean, hell, that reminds me of Dr. Phil. When Shelley Duvall, before she passed away, you could clearly tell she was not in her right mind, and Dr. Phil used it to his benefit to get whatever the fuck he needed out of it, and people called him out on it, as they should. But there's people still doing that today, in this day and age, where or the message seemed prominent at first, where it's either he gives one tirade about he's tired of the bullshit and I just ran out of bullshit. Lying and trying to make stuff up. Just ran out of bullshit. And of course you have the big mad as hell speech, which has become easily the most famous part of this movie, easily the most famous part of this film, where people rally for this message. And I mean, I'm not going to do this justice, but I think it deserves... Why don't you show it? Because it don't be copyright, but it really shows about how... As I read this, what's sad is a lot of this still fits in today's age. And the anger we have, whether it be what the last administration hasn't done and didn't do, the inflation, wars in other countries that we're wondering why are we a part of it, things going up and seems like not changing. I'll do my... But I mean, Peter Finch did a fantastic job. I mean, this speech alone, I can see with the way his energy, it's... You could consider it over the top, but it felt genuine coming out of him. I'm not an actor, so I'll fuck this up, but I'll do my best. But I just think it's worth repeating because it's such a great speech. I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street. And there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do. And there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we have 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. That's crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house and slowly the world we are living in is getting smaller. And all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios. I don't want to say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. Because I want you to get mad. I want you to protest. Well, I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You gotta say, I'm a human being, goddammit. My life has value. So I want you to get up now. I want you to get out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell. I'm not going to take this anymore. I want you to get up right now, sit up, go to your windows, open them, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell. I'm not going to take this anymore. Things have got to change, but first you gotta get mad. You gotta say, I'm mad as hell, I'm not gonna take this anymore. Then we'll figure out what to do about the depression and the inflation and the oil crisis. But first, get up out of your chairs, open up the window, stick your head out and yell and say, I'm as mad as hell, I'm not gonna take this anymore. And see what I mean by how it's still apparent? The inflation, I'm not going to tell you what to do about the Russians. It's like we're right back to where we were in 1976. The corporations own everything. The Russians are, the people we're against. Or pissed at us, we piss at them, whatever. Inflation on the rise. We sit in the house and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller. Which is, especially true today with, on our, as I am, on our computers. Staying home. Don't want to go out there because there's fucking school shootings or there's fucking shootings at stores and there's all sorts of other crazy shit. If you don't respond to the message the way we want you to, then you're this awful, evil person. If you don't respond to the agenda we want you to, then you're sexist, you're homophobic, you're an ist, you're a phobe. If you voted for someone Yeah, you may have had trouble with a hurricane, but we're not going to have officials checking in on you because you have one guy's sign outside your fucking door. Just like, was it the FEMA worker, boss, that told her workers, if you see a Donald Trump sign, do not check in to see if they're okay. Now, granted, on a side note of politics, I don't like any politicians. I did not like Joe Biden. I don't like Donald Trump. I think they're both full of it. I think they're both full of shit. Because I think all politicians are full of shit because they all care about what they want, not really what you want. They'll try to talk. Well, Biden barely talk. Well, if he could talk. My point is they're all full of shit and they don't really give a fuck about you. And they'll promise a bunch of things and most of them will never come to fruition. One may be worse than the other. I think Kamala would have been worse, but I don't like Trump either. So that's the thing. I don't like either one. I think Kamala would have been worse. I don't like Trump. I don't like either one. But Joe Biden fucked up 85 things in a row. But Donald Trump, remember that whole Epstein thing? It's going to be a game changer. Nothing happened. It was all bullshit. It was a lot of hot air. Phase 1 came out. There's nothing. There's nothing new. No arrests. Nothing. So it's all bullshit. It's all fucking bullshit. Don't believe any of it. That's why I say fuck all politics. All sides of politics. The upper echelon of politics. They're all full of it. Just as they say, it's about the corporations. It's about that's what runs the bee's knees. The upper echelon of power. He who has the money makes the rules. So as he's, this Howard Beale says this stuff and people get into it, it's a very valid statement, it's a valid argument, it's a valid rant. But now we're going to turn this rant and we're going to make a buck out of it. We're going to turn into a catchphrase. We're going to make a show where you don't rant all the time now. In fact, the audience is going to say the catchphrase because that was the catchphrase. Before, it was a sincere meaning of caring about what's going on in your life in the outside world. And, hey, we need something to change. But now it's just a catchphrase. Now it's part of the group. Now it's part of the think tank. Now it's part of the acceptableness of it. Because now they're going to work on you. Now they're going to rework your psyche to be in their favor. Oh, you don't worry. You're still a rebel. Technically, you're working for us now. But you're still a rebel. Just keep thinking that. And just all the rest of the film, just all the stuff that happens behind the scenes, whether it be William Holden realizing, listen, my friend, he's having a breakdown. He's needing treatment. We need to stop this. You're using a sick man for ratings without caring for his well-being. Robert Duvall, he's going to keep going, as he puts it. It's a big, fat, big-tittied hit. Faye Dunaway, she just cares about the success that's going on. And everybody's flawed in this movie. Everybody's flawed. William Holden falls in love with Faye Dunaway, and enough so that he leaves his wife that he's been with for 20-some years. Faye Dunaway, she just cares on what that big shock value you did get. I mean, hell, one of the shows she's preparing is a show about this terrorist group and what they do on their daily basis. While we got footage of a bank robbery, she's pretty much Rene Russo at Nightcrawler. If you ever seen that film, that's pretty much what she is. Like, if you ever look at Rene Russo in Nightcrawler, if you ever seen the J. Jonah Good film, she's pretty much Faye Dunaway in this. Or Faye Dunaway will turn into her. The new show that Howard Beale, the character, gets, even I could tell, like, his early rants felt more meaning and felt more worth it, but now it's become a bit of a... It's losing its impact. It's not as special. It feels more commercialized. I know it sounds stupid, but it makes me think of... I know it's off tangent, but CM Punk. When he first did that pipe bomb, very worthwhile rant. But now when the second or third or fifth or seventh pipe bomb is like, okay, there's some merit to it, but it's not as special. That's more of, we got a pipe bomb, and then other people try to do their pipe bomb. I got a pipe bomb too. Now it's a DMX and less of a sincere thing. And you see that happening with this. Now I think all the actors do their jobs well. And everyone seems like eventually they have this big rant. Like everybody has this big rant where they're yelling and screaming. Whether it be William Holden and Faye Dunaway yelling at each other, or Robert Duvall yelling about what the fuck Howard Beale is doing because he's screwing things up. And after the meeting he has with Ned Beatty, he's just more depressed and more about how things don't really matter much. Like everyone gets a big rant in. Which is fine with me, because everyone really is able to go forced. What really gets things into a kerfluffle is when Peter Finch's character starts ranting about how there's this Saudi deal with the parent company and how that can't happen. And you should write to your Congress and not let that happen. But the thing is, that's going to screw over the deal that's worth a shit ton of money. And they don't like that. Now, I will say at times, the movie sometimes got bogged down on certain things. Like when they're spending time with the terrorist group, I'm like, I don't really care. Because this terrorist group... didn't really find that fascinating. Didn't really find that interesting. It's just a means to the end for the end of the film. That's the way I felt. That was a bit weird too. Like one of the first, not the first, but one of the scenes we find is the guy's black. And he's eating a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken. I'm like, what's next? Is there Kool-Aid and watermelon in his fucking fridge? I thought that was a bit weird, just to see him all of a sudden with a bucket of KFC. I went... Like, if it was... they made him do that, and he's looking and it's like, what the fuck? It's like, hey, just, just go with it. And that was part of the joke and the... I don't know, just there's something to that more so. Like, but no, it's just... The guy just has a bucket of KFC. Okay. Also, I mean, I know it's looked at as a comedy. I didn't really find much funny in the film. Maybe because everything is apparent and sadly truthful today, so... It was just, to me, it wasn't comedy. It just looked as a documentary, in a way. But I mean, the fact that there's really nobody, at least for me, there's nobody to root for, because they all have their flaws. Or I would say the one has a little bit more of a moral fiber is William Holden, but still, he did leave his wife of 20-some years. But I did like his speech with Faye Dunaway near the end, spoilers, where he's talking about how what you call sentimental, my generation calls simple human decency. And how he warns her that she's going to self-destruct if you keep going. Because this ain't going to be enough. There's going to be the next one and the next one and the next one. And that pressure's going to build up. And that pressure's going to overcome you. And maybe one day you'll be the person on the roof trying to jump off, or whatever the case may be. I also like when he leaves, he describes it like the end of a show. So he's, I guess in a way, is like me trying to be the hero, trying to go back to his wife that was loved for 20 some years, to leave the heartless woman with her arctic desolation. The music swells, fade to black, final commercial break. I like he does it better than I make it out to be, but I liked that whole thing. Although I'm like, well, you're not perfect either, dude. You're the one who left your wife. But even he admits, probably more than likely, he's not going to get back with his wife because he'll try, but he's pretty sure it's not going to work out. But afterward, it's like, hey, I'll do what I deserve and I'll take my lumps, but I'll go somewhere. I mean, it would have been nice to see a bit more of the Howard Beale character, like trying to enjoy fame in the outside world. Like, are there big fans of him and fanboys or fangirls of his, and I was like trying to maybe expand on what's going on, expand on what's happening. I think he said he was divorced. Like maybe if he could try to get back with her again, and a little bit more about the character Howard Beale outside of the job, because you don't really see what he does outside of the job. I don't think you ever see his home or anything. So it would have been nice to see a bit more of him as a character of that note. I mean, William Holden and Faye Dunaway are together for a little bit, but I can't help it. There was a part of me that still thought it was a bit of a stretch that he's going to leave his wife of over 20 years for these couple of moments he spent with Faye Dunaway. So it definitely made me like the character even less so. Sorry about that. And it would have been nice to see a bit more about what the other like side characters who run the behind the scenes. Like Lane Smith, who is the dad and the son-in-law. He played Perry White in the Lois and Clark TV show. He's in it, and it was cool to see him. Then after a bit, he kind of disappears. So it would have been nice to maybe get their background on work in this network and get a little bit more in the in and out nitty gritty of making this kind of program. Like, do they have conversations? It's more about the upper echelon people, but it would have been nice to hear a bit more of the people, sort of the soldiers, so to speak, of the network companies, the people on the ground doing all the details and doing the nitty gritty stuff. Spoiler alert, at the end of the film, Faye Dunaway and Robert Duvall, they realize, hey, this guy, he's tanking the ratings. If we just fire him, someone's going to pick him up and he's going to still say this stuff that's going to denounce us. So Faye Dunaway's going to use a terrorist group he just killed on live. Now, granted, I don't know if they would show this on TV. I mean, I wasn't born yet, so I don't know if... I know this is based on... There was I forget the person's name, but they were an anchor person that shot themselves on TV, live TV. So which, I've heard of that story. And I think that might have happened more than once, Sally. But obviously it's live TV, so they didn't know what was going on, and people were watching at that point, they were able to see the whole thing. So it's based on that. But so the guy gets killed, but then like the camera goes into the guy's face, like holding it there, and then they show reruns and they show all the squibs. I'm sitting there going, well, I think they would like hide that. It'd be like blurry. And I don't know if they would show the whole thing in reruns on repeat. And also, I think they would get in trouble of like, why did you put the camera up close to his face? Why did you hold it there? I felt like there'd be a lot more trouble they would get into because of that. Maybe I'm thinking a bit more too deeply into it, but it just stuff that crossed my mind at the end. But yeah, I'm sure it's supposed to be the satiric or again, blackly comedic. That's the thing, though. If it was looked at as that way, I didn't really find it funny at all. Because again, it was a bit sad. Because it's all true. It holds up today, the truthfulness of it. And again, because of that end, that's why they put a bit more into the terrorist. It's just that they bring up the terrorist group, and then they don't really do a whole lot. Like, you see them every once in a while, and Faye Dunaway mentions once in a while, but it just wasn't really that built up. Again, the thing I remember the most is the one guy have a damn bucket of chicken. That's it. Faye Dunaway, she did a good job, where she showed her doing whatever she can to garner her success. And you see a bit of vulnerability when she asks William Holden, well, you then don't leave. When he mentions how she's going to self-destruct, she said, well, then don't leave. But Holden realizes he's got to leave because otherwise he'll be like everything else in her life, dead. I mean, that's pretty much what he says. I definitely think, I mean, it's directed by Sidney Lumet, I should mention that, who is a capable director who they did the original 12 Angry Men, he did Serpico, he did Dog Day Afternoon, Find Me Guilty, which is a very good Vin Diesel film. I think it's one of Vin Diesel's best performances. So, I mean, he's definitely a capable director, and yeah, this did very well. A lot of Academy Award nominations. I think this was an inspiration for when Burt Reynolds did that movie Switching Channels with him and Christopher Reeve. This was a lot better. Like this, I thought, had much more memorable scenes like the Mad as Hell scene. And the performances seemed a bit more powerhouse, animated, forceful in terms of just gun-ho attitude performances. And sadly still relevant to this day. Still relevant to this day, so. And yeah, Peter Finch, sad that he was not around to get let it sink in the accolades he received for his performance, to accept the Oscar. Again, he won it after. Just like Heath Ledger, when he was the Joker of The Dark Knight, he won it after he passed away. Posthumously, as they call it. So, but he did a wonderful job. Yeah. With that said, thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye for now.